notified Michelle can't come through there, so she's on his phone on speaker.
This is Jason Anderson, Chairman of the Killenly Town Council. For roll call purposes, all council members are in attendance, and Ms. Murphy is attending virtually. Is there any public comment?
Something wrong with the something
My
wrong.
name is John Odell. I live at 57 Island Road, Connecticut.
Mary, will Liz's mic reach the podium?
Can you up the podium mic higher? The podium mic isn't on.
Other option would be if we can do the mics at the center table, if those are,
Do you want me to switch microphones, Becky? Want me to switch or is it good? Sorry. Can you try?
Nope.
You want us to run over here?
Nope.
Becky, not once. Let's see if we can get your microphone that works, Ron.
Having technical difficulties.
Maybe my seat, I know that one works.
Yeah, this one worked. Yeah, but it won't.
Perfect. There you go.
Thank you.
Becky, we got it. I just switched over my mic. Fine, you're good.
As I understand it, I can speak on any subject that's not subject to public hearing?
due to the agenda being for a special town council meeting, per town council rules of procedure, you can only speak to items that are on an agenda for a special town council meeting.
Which is the budget,
Just the Board of Education
just the Board of Education.
budget.
I would encourage you to approve the budget you spoke of last night. And I was going to speak on a different subject, but I understand the rules, and I will honor them. Thank you for reconvening.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Last call for public comment.
Also, we did not receive any electronically.
Thank you. Item 3A, budget deliberation, consideration and action on a motion to confirm the amount allocated to the education budget to reflect a reduction of $125,000 for an education budget of $47,383,839 for a total combined budget of $71,302,085.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Mr. Cottula, seconded by Mr. Gambatista. I'm going to start with, this meeting is actually being conducted outside of the town council rules of procedure. The agenda I had asked Ms. Caloria to post is not the agenda that got posted. The meeting was not notified to the local newspaper, as it's referred to in our rules of procedure. Has to be done within 24 hours prior. So I am going to put that out there so everyone's aware of that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes?
For clarification with regards to the agenda that Mr. Anderson and I spoke about was to request for a broad His request was to put a broad item to just redeliberate the budget. After our conversation, I spoke with our town attorney to review what had already occurred and what legally we had the ability to put on the agenda. He informed me at that time that we could not just put on an agenda item that was just a broad statement like that, because the council had already adopted a resolution on Tuesday that was a standing resolution. He instructed me as to what was the proper item to put on the agenda with regards to the Board of Education, and gave me instruction as to what to communicate with the town council chair with regards to the general government budget request, because that would have been a reconsideration of a legitimately adopted item. I made several attempts to reach the council chair prior to the time in which we were required to post the agenda for this meeting to occur, and was unsuccessful in reaching the council chairman on that point. So I did have the agenda posted based on our town attorney's guidelines to make sure that we were meeting those requirements. So I just wanted to clarify that.
And I'd also like to add that at 3:51 was when I had spoken with Ms. Colorio about what I wanted put on the agenda. I received multiple text messages simultaneously and missed calls at 5:09 p.m. One of the text messages I received at 5:09 p.m. said, we need to post the agenda by 4:45. I didn't receive that text message until afterwards. The place of business I work in, there is a section of the building where I do not get cell phone signal. And I had spoken, as I said, I looked back, it was 3:51 was when our phone conversation started. And there was multiple conversations that went back and forth yesterday throughout the day between myself, Ms. Colorio, and also with the town attorney.
So is this a legal meeting?
That's debatable.
According to the town attorney, is this a legal meeting?
My understanding is yes, in the conversations that I've had with the town attorney, but anybody can challenge anything.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
I think we had,
What's the motion again?
The motion was consideration and action on a motion to confirm the amount allocated to the education budget to reflect a reduction of $125,000 for an education budget of $47,383,839 for a total combined budget of $71,302,085.
All right, I'll say you just gave my father a heart attack.
So for clarification, I see the 125,000, what is the number, do we have a number that we are correcting? Is that?
that would be the bottom line number.
So you are correcting the amount that was originally listed in Tuesday night's agenda, or Tuesday night's resolution for the Board of Education. Inadvertently, we had an error in that calculation in which instead of reducing, as you had intended, the Board of Education's number by only 125,000, it reduced it by the additional 250,000. So that number was incorrect, and thereby the combined budget number was incorrect. So this is correcting that to what your intention was, to only reduce the Board of Education budget by 125,000, and thereby also correcting the combined budget total. The general government budget number was accurate and correct. And Jen, I will say, is very, very sorry that this occurred. She is quite mortified that it occurred, and she is incredibly, just incredibly sorry that she is, putting all of you through this and the community through this. She's very upset. So she will be here shortly, but that's what this motion does. So after we realized what happened was, the event, Tuesday night occurred. Wednesday morning, Jen went in to put into the actual budget document all of the changes. That's when the error popped out. So I called our attorney and I said, Rich, what do we do? Rich said to his guidance was to have the council meet, because we do have enough time between now and the reconvened annual town meeting, to do a clarifying motion, to just clarify the number that was supposed to be set for the Board of Education to reflect the decrease of $125,000. That's what that was to do. And that's why we put this together.
The numbers that passed, were approved, the actual budgetary numbers on Tuesday night were $23,918,246 for the town government. The Board of Education budget was for $47,133,839 for a total combined budget of $71,052,085. During that meeting, at 2 hours and 16 minutes in, Ms. George stated that at number one, if we kept it at 750 proposed, we would still be at 21.3. Ms. Calorio stated we'd be at 21.18. Ms. George was actually trying to refer to the general fund balance. Ms. George asked what the general fund balance would be if we kept the 750 and kept the whole scenario. We would be at a 20.18 mill rate. Ms. Calorio agreed. Now, Ms. Calorio, these numbers here with the $71,302,085, what would the mill rate be on that?
That reflects a mill rate of 20.32. That is the correct mill rate that would be reflected.
Which is different than what you had stated it would be,
That is
based because
correct.
the numbers were wrong.
That is correct. That was incorrect information. So
I
it would be
just wanted-
20.32.
I just wanted to clarify that for everyone, especially seeing
Correct.
that you were told the mill rate was going to be 20.18, and that is what you voted on.
Arguably, you voted on the expenditure numbers. You still will have another meeting that you will be setting the mill rate.
I was gonna say, don't we set the mill rate?
Yes.
at
Yes.
the ne-
After
Yeah.
But-
So
After
the
expenditures
numbers
approved,
are
right?
what is
Yes.
specific.
Yes, but
To-
your question was, what would the mill rate be 20.18,
Right.
based on the scenario that was put forward that, for the vote?
But there was a mistake, and we
Yep.
were throwing dozens of numbers
I
out
understand.
there.
I am
So
just,
the mistake, everybody makes mistakes. We were focusing on how much we were decreasing the Board of Ed by. That's corrected now, which brings us to 20.32 at these numbers, which is still 0.01 mil lower than the original number one, correct? It was 20.33, so now it's 20.32 at that specific decrease that's been corrected. Correct?
It was 20.33, I believe, for.
Yes.
scenario.
So-
Correct.
So we're on track. And the mill rate doesn't get set tonight.
understood. I just wanted to clarify so everyone listening understands what this means and what was actually said at the meeting before it was voted on.
It is a difference of 0.14, to be. It is, from what it was said to what it is. It is a difference of 0.14.
And that was the point I was trying to convey.
Fair.
At the final thing, is it a difference of 0.14 or during the discussion?
The difference between what was said during the discussion and what this is 0.14 mil.
No, but I don't mean in the middle of the discussion. I mean the final thing that came out at the end of the night. And right now, is there a 0.14 or is it just 0.01?
The difference between the numbers, the total budgetary number that was stated and voted on was $71,052,085. That included an error in the calculation of the total based on what was spoken about as far as reflecting a $125,000 decrease on the Board of Education side. What happened during the calculations was there was a $250,000 increase on the Board of Education side. And I went back through and listened to that entire meeting multiple times. And it is my opinion that the intent of the council, the members who put the motion forward and seconded it and spoke on it afterwards, were intending to put through a decrease of only $125,000 on the Board of Education budget. I'm not trying to dispute that in any way. I just went back through it to verify and make sure that was actually the intent of what they were trying to do, because so many numbers got thrown back and forth. I actually literally started going through, play it, type it out, play it, type it out, just so I could have a log of what was said. So I could look at a timeline to see, all right, well, this definitely was the intent. So after reviewing it, it was the intent of the members of the council that made the motion, and also Mr. Gambatista. You had stated that you were on board with Patty and Tammy on that as well, and they and Ula actually spoke to clarifying, because a lot of that discussion before Ula's clarification, it actually wasn't saying a decrease of 125. If you really listen to it, you could actually construe that they were saying, give the Board of Ed 125.
Okay.
So I was actually glad that Ula clarified that, because that could have really been murky if Ula hadn't called for that clarification, which definitely helped us with this process. So the reason why I brought up the difference in numbers and the difference in mill rate is because of the fact those were what were presented, and those were told to you, and those are what you voted on.
As the person that put forward the motion, my intent was to find a middle ground between the initial 0, 50,000, and the 250,000. And so between Patty and I, we just came up with, I might have give them a 125, but it was give them a 125 reduction, is what was intended. It might not have been broadcasted like that, but that was the intent.
And that was clarified once Ula asked for a clarification on it. And after that point,
So then
it
let's
was
let it
clarified.
drop. So just let it drop. My motion was, I was comfortable with my motion, Patty was comfortable with my motion, it passed 5-4.
It did pass 5-4 at a different number that was told to you and a different mill rate that was told to you. I just wanted to clarify them before you vote on this.
And we don't do it,
Clarification, sorry, Tim, I can't see when you guys are talking. Can I just have clarification of what the mill rate was when we left and what it's gonna be now?
The mill rate technically isn't set yet. The mill rate gets set later on. The projected mill rate that was told to the council by the town manager was 20.18, but that was based on the number that was the $71,052,085. However, when the town finance director went back over the numbers the next morning, she realized there was a calculation error. Part of this happens because you've got two different sides. When you're changing one side, it doesn't automatically change the other side when you're factoring in things, specifically Lake Road generating. When I went over these numbers, and I had a conversation with Ms. Caloria this morning and got clarification on it, when I looked at the numbers that left annual town meeting that went to the referendum vote, if you took those numbers and the numbers that passed Tuesday night, there was actually $284,100 that you couldn't account for. And that's why I had the conversation with Ms. Calorio today over that. And what that difference is the reduction in the budget's impact on the payments from Lake Road generating. So that number, if you look just at the numbers without knowing that piece, and unfortunately, I don't remember that number coming out at all on Tuesday. But that is, especially if anyone's at home who's really looked through these numbers and sees a discrepancy, that discrepancy is based off of the mill rate reduction, based off the reductions made after annual town meetings, impact on what Lake Road generating would be paying.
So Michelle, when I did communicate a 20.18 mill rate projection on your Tuesday night meeting. Unfortunately, that calculation really is a 20.32 mill rate based on what the intended cuts were. So tonight, the motion that's before you right now would project to result in a mill rate of 20.32. So there is a difference.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a significant difference, but maybe everyone's still in favor of it. I get the 125, that seems like they all wanted that, but that was with a different understanding. Can I just ask a question? I hope it's not echoey. So I call it mystery money, Mary, but it's not. It's the money we don't know what we'll get. It's in escrow or not. That shows up in expenditure and in revenue. Like, why can't we just say when we get it, we're not going to spend, 25,000 or 500,000, whatever.
So that's because so number one, we need to apply the mill rate to it, and the calculation, when that was done, for that calculation, it was done at the 20.32. But we have to reflect the utilization of that revenue, and a good portion of that revenue, we're trying to remain the same amount of revenue that we have been using to offset mill rate. We leave that just the mill rate calculation to reduce the overall mill rate. The disputed amount gets shown as an expenditure, so that way we can recognize the full use of that revenue, essentially, that we're recognizing on the revenue side. So I get that it's confusing. That is the path that our auditors have recommended that we follow as we go through this, so that way we can have that money recognized and set aside, not to be utilized for any funding at the moment until that dispute is completed. But that's why it flows, a portion of it is recognized in the expenditures, because that is the disputed amount.
Okay, and I just want to say thank you for that, Mary. I can respect everybody, 5 to 4 said 125, but it definitely, you need a new vote because the mill rate is so different, and I didn't realize that.
Thank you. I do have one question for clarification. The $284,100, that's the difference. That was based off the 20.33 or 20.32 projected mill rate, and what would the difference be between the two if that was projected off the 20.33?
It was actually projected off of the 20.32.
Okay.
That was one of the scenarios that she had run, and then we hadn't gotten back through rerunning it at the lower rate.
Okay. All right.
So basically, the town side's where it's supposed to be. There's no mystery money.
That's correct.
Thank you.
The mystery money she was referring to is the difference between...
No, you referred to it as mystery money.
No, I did not.
Money, because it shows up in revenue and expenditure. We don't have it yet. So that's just how I clarify it.
So Mary, once we're through mediation, that money, that's what that money is, correct?
Yeah, once we're completed
Okay.
and we know what the final available funding is to the town, then the council would make, the town council and also potentially the town, probably the town at that level would make appropriation processes around that.
Mystery solved.
So, but we don't know that number, correct?
Thank you. Yes.
We don't know that number, right?
That's why I call it.
No, that's why it's in negotiations.
But we don't know that number, right? So that's why Michelle calls it mystery
Yeah,
money,
and I understand that. It's just
So-
it's just a phrase.
right?
I understand.
Doesn't have to be argued.
Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Oh, wait, what are we voting on?
The motion that's on the floor, which was consideration and action on the motion to confirm the amount allocated to the education budget to reflect a reduction of $125,000 for an education budget of $47,383,839 for a combined budget of $71,302,085.
Can we have a voice vote? I mean, a
Roll call.
I still have one clarification. So are we voting on the whole budget, or we're just voting to say this was the intent of the council?
We are voting
before?
on, this was the intent, and this is what the number should have been with the intent of the two members that put the motion forward.
Michelle, these are the numbers that will go to reconvened annual town meeting on July 3rd, and then
June,
ultimately.
June 3rd.
June 3rd. I keep doing that, July. I don't know what
Don't
month
push
I'm
it
in.
out that far.
On June 3rd, and then ultimately to referendum on June 11th.
Okay, no, I'm just a little confused, like, are we saying that this is what they intended, because
Yes.
it seems like people intended, or is this the budget? Because I
This
vote
is-
no on the budget, but if
Right.
it was to clarify everybody's intent, that's something different.
Right.
That's what they intended.
This is setting the number.
This is-
Okay.
Sorry, Ed Grandowski.
Yes.
Ulatik Barclay.
No.
Tony Gambatista.
Yes.
Patty George.
Yes.
Michelle Murphy.
No,
Andy Whitehead.
No.
Kevin Kurtula.
Yes.
Tammy Wakefield.
Yes.
Jason Anderson.
I abstain.
That's 5-3 with one abstention.
Next item on the agenda is adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Grandelsky, seconded by Mr. Catula. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.